They are guides, all guides, and in unexpected places you'll meet their friendly faces, and a ready hand besides. There's not much danger of finding you're a stranger, for commissioner or ranger they are guides, all guides.
Hi, and welcome to Guide's Own, the unofficial guiding podcast where we talk about everything guiding. I'm Taryn.
And I'm Marissa. This week we are talking about lifelong learning. We will first explore why it's important and then how the internet has made it easy, and we'll also share our own experiences.
Then we'll get to know more about a lifelong learner and former Girl Scout who is about to make a big move into a new house. That's right. Dr. Jill Biden is the focus of this week's She Was a Girl Guide Now.
And for our campfire song, we've chosen a fun tune called Today's Monday, which often gets stuck in Taryn's head. And it got stuck in mine as well as I researched it. It's also great for teaching kids about the days of the week as well. So it's a multi-purpose song.
Yeah. I'm surprised you'd never heard it before.
Yeah, it's funny because when I started listening to trying to find a version that sounded good enough for this, it somehow oddly became familiar. And I was like, maybe I have heard it, but I don't remember doing it through Girl Guides. I might have heard it elsewhere. Who knows? I might have heard it through Barney. I don't know. We're just talking about Barney Wiki.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. But I guess it's perfect transition talking about learning and Barney. So lifelong learning is something that I wasn't really sure which direction to go in for this episode. I just knew that I had personal experience with lifelong learning. So does Taryn. Like we're both would describe ourselves as being curious about it and being interested in doing it and have done it. So we thought we'd bring it up. It also fits really well into Girl Guides or Girl Scouts, and has just become really prevalent in recent years. And I would say even like the last decade or so, it's become really big. So I thought we'd start off with a definition just for people who don't really know what we're talking about, or maybe English is your second language. According to the Art of Education's website, and they get their definition from dictionary.com, lifelong learning is the provision or use of both formal and informal learning opportunities throughout people's lives to foster the continuous development and improvement of the knowledge and skills needed for employment and personal fulfillment. So there's sort of two sides to that. There's the learning for personal preference, enjoyment, and for career purposes, furthering your career, switching to a new career, whatever it may be. Another definition that I really liked was from Wikipedia, but it is sourced to a paper called Learning for Life, and it's a paper on adult education. And this definition is really nice. It has a component that I really like about it that I think is kind of key to lifelong learning. And it's that lifelong learning is the ongoing, voluntary, and self-motivated pursuit of knowledge for either personal or professional reasons. And I just really like that. First of all, because it's easy to say and easy to understand. And I think it captures that whole voluntary aspect of it. I think lifelong learning is very much voluntary to a degree. And
you have to want to keep learning in order to actually be fulfilled and actually retain any of that information.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, lifelong learning happens basically once you've finished your formal education, your required education through, the government of whatever country you're living in. That's that is, I think lifelong learning happens after that. As soon as you leave high school here in Canada, that's basically what the requirement is. Then you go on and do what you want. And some people choose to do post-secondary education and others don't. Depends on what you want your career to look like. So yeah, I think it starts from then on in, and it can start maybe earlier too. It depends on what you're like. But yeah, I thought those definitions really, really nice way to sort of describe it. I also grabbed one from our local library, the Kitchener Public Library, and they have a definition that says lifelong learning is essential in the 21st century. So they're saying basically whatever your reason is, upgrading your knowledge and skills is now necessary in the world that we live in. And it helps you to better understand the world and also provides you with better opportunities. And therefore, that allows you to improve quality of life.
Mhm.
So I think a huge thing that's brought lifelong learning to the front is the fact that people are often needing to find new jobs. For whatever reason, they've lost their job. They want to switch careers. They need to gain new skills for said new career or said new job. And the way they have to do that is going about learning again. As an adult, you feel like you have to start from the beginning. So that's sort of why it's become so important, but also the whole educating yourself about what's going on in the world. I think there's been a lot of that this year. A lot of people
Definitely.
learning about things that are going on in other places. So it's just become so big. And I think with the internet too, the age of the internet, having all these different resources and basically figuring out how to read through it all and decipher what's true and false takes a lot of learning and reading. So I would consider that too as well part of lifelong learning.
Definitely.
So transitioning then from there, a really important aspect is online learning. So there's a lot of online sources, resources, and sites that have sort of popped up that I would say within the past decade or so. And I often hear them, especially if I'm listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
I will hear the advertisements for a lot of these, or I will just see them being advertised to me, like on Instagram or on Facebook. So I thought I'd bring a couple of them up. The first one is called Coursera, and that one I actually used for an online course that I took this past summer. And it's really cool. You can find tons of different courses on there. It's known as a MOOC, which is a massive open online course provider. And MOOCs are basically online courses that are aimed at unlimited participation and are open access via the web. So a MOOC basically accessible to everyone via the web. All the content's coming from the web. You're not having to take out books to do further research or anything. And I guess it depends on the course that you take, but I think MOOCs generally are there's not a lot of testing behind them. I'm sure the one that I took had quizzes every week, but it wasn't like I was having to pass a certain percentage other than 50%. So they're fairly relaxed and easygoing. There's not a lot riding on it.
Yeah, the quizzes are more to make
Coursera
sure that
really,
you are keeping up and understanding the material versus marking you or grading you. It's a way to help make sure that you're on the right path.
Yeah, exactly. Coursera is really cool because you can access both professional and master track courses and earn specializations and degrees through Coursera, which is kind of cool. The one that I took was actually partnered with a university in Canada, the University of Alberta. So there's professional institutions on there. So you're getting quality content depending on what course you take. And through them, you could even find more courses. So it's kind of nice. Some of them are free, some of them are not. It depends what you're looking at. The one I took was free. And you can buy a certificate sometimes at the end if you really want the certificate. Again, depends what kind of course you're taking, but if it means a lot to you and you really want the certificate, you can buy it. So just a cool option. There's also tons of free online learning opportunities. A big one that I remember from university was Lynda, which has recently been switched to LinkedIn Learning because LinkedIn had acquired Lynda. I've not visited it since it has been switched, but it offers specifically video courses taught by industry experts in the areas of software, creativity, and business. And the public library here in Kitchener-Waterloo gives you access to Lynda for free if you get a library card. So basically, if you're a resident of the area, you get access to Lynda, which is pretty cool. I remember taking some tutorial videos on how to use Photoshop and Illustrator back when I first started my degree. So it was pretty helpful.
Yeah.
I liked using it. There's one called Gale that is similar. I haven't used it before, but I've had friends who's used it. Again, through the library, whatever local library you have, it may be accessible to you. And again, they actually describe themselves as an online learning community, giving members easy access to lifelong learning opportunities, including professional development, technology, and personal enrichment courses. So they've got it pretty much already there, all bundled up in their little description. And again, Gale specifically, though, supports libraries, and they often offer their programming through local libraries. So our library has it. You'll probably find it in your area, depending where you live. I don't know if it's international or not, but definitely check it out if you're in North America.
Is it, so you have it that it's through the Waterloo Library? Is it through like the other local libraries? Is it through Kitchener and Waterloo region? Do you know?
Well, yeah. See, I always thought that Kitchener-Waterloo libraries were connected somehow, so I have a feeling they're in both, but I could be wrong.
So, because I just moved here like a year and a half ago.
Oh, you have the inside.
The city of Kitchener has a library system. The city of Waterloo has a library system. I believe Cambridge has their own library system, and then the region of Waterloo has a library system.
Ooh.
To make it extra confusing.
That is really confusing.
Yeah.
I just know the Waterloo Public Library site has it. It's the one I have a card for. So I'm not sure. I think you can maybe you can just get your loan items through some of them, but
I don't know.
Not entirely sure.
It's also if you live in the region, you can get library cards too everywhere. So it's not a very hard barrier.
No. Basically, what I'm saying is check out your local library.
Yeah.
They must have they have a site. They're likely going to have a site. If they're surviving this pandemic, they certainly will. We have what's called a digital library, which is really cool. So you can access all the same things that you can in person as you would online, minus the books, of course. I think you can get like a lot of audiobooks. You can get a lot of e-reader books. Like you can get a lot. And on top of that, they've added online learning. So lots of opportunities. Check it out.
Yeah. Wherever
you live. It's definitely worth it. Because a lot of those things, if you're not a member with a library card, are going to cost you. So make use of your resources.
Library cards are amazing pieces of plastic.
They are. It's like Arthur in that one episode.
Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card. Yeah.
Oh, that song used to get stuck in my head when we watched that. So yeah, big things. Another big one that I've heard a lot about, mostly through podcasts, is Skillshare. And that is a little bit more open in the sense that a lot of people teaching them are experts in the area and real creators. So they know what they're talking about in that sense. Like they've done what they're teaching you. Like say, for instance, someone's teaching you about photography and how to take pictures. This person's been in the photography field at least, right? And has experience. So you've got some more direct contact as opposed to having like a professor teach you something or like an instructor. So it's maybe a little bit more personal that way. And Skillshare has courses in business, technology, arts, and lifestyle. And although the courses are not accredited, they are available through their subscription service. Basically, if you want to learn something, you can probably find it on there. A lot of these sites are very narrow in their categories of what you can learn. Like there's a lot of arts, a lot of business, a lot of tech. There's not so much like the history necessarily or things like math and science, I think, because they're a little bit harder to learn. But I would check out Coursera for that then, because the course that I took through Coursera was sort of history based. So if you want to learn like factual stuff, like about things and how things work, that might be a way to go. If you're looking more artsy and trying to learn a new skill, check out the other ones like Skillshare and Linda and Gale or alternatives because they would be good as well.
Yeah, there's also great courses, which I've haven't looked too much into, but have heard about it through podcasts. And it's a little bit more, from my understanding, like Coursera, where it's a little bit more professional level, in-depth courses, versus a little bit more, not unprofessional, but relaxed, like Skillshare.
Yeah.
But like I said, I haven't looked into it too much. I've taken a glance, thought about taking a course here or there, but haven't really jumped in and, taken anything with them. But have heard great things about the great courses.
Yep. I would also recommend checking out if you have a college or university in your town or city, take a look at their sites, because sometimes they offer things for free. There's sometimes lectures that you can attend that are open, or lectures that you can watch.
Yeah.
So something to look into if that's something you really enjoy. Highly encourage you get out and do that. And I think that's sort of something that Tara and I, have been drawn to, I think partly because of our guiding background, our guiding history, our involvement. Lifelong learning is something that they sort of instill through the LINK program here in Canada. So that's the program for women ages 18 to 30, so the young adults. And the LINK program is really good about building on that. And they say specifically about the LINK program is that it's about creating opportunities for young women to grow, to take on new challenges, and to also deepen their involvement with Girl Guides of Canada. And the Girl Guides of Canada LINK program has sort of 4 themes, I think is what they call them. It's different than, they're themes. It's different than like the girl programming. It's quite a bit different. It's not categorized the same way. So LINK program has 4 themes. The 4 themes include, let me just read them all off. Oh, I don't think I wrote them all down, but the one that I did write down was personal and professional development, because I thought that was the one that made sense to talk about. And this one covers topics like career development, lifelong learning, financial know-how, and work in the workplace environment in general. And basically throughout each of the 4 themes, they give you these 3 phases to work on that theme. So you start off with foundation. So you build leadership and advocacy. Then you dive deeper. So you learn through new experiences, and then you bring it back and apply your skills to guiding. So for personal and professional development, for foundations, you learn about personal professional development. You maybe lead a seminar or a meeting. You advocate for lifelong learning. Then you dive deeper, so you learn more about lifelong learning. You learn yourself, take a course, take a few sessions of a webinar or something, and then you go to the bringing it back, and then you apply those lifelong learning skills to guiding. So maybe that means you're going to take some leadership courses so you can better improve your guiding experience as a leader or whatnot. Bring it back to your girls, teach them about it if they're of the right age. So that's a big part of the LINK program, and something that I am working on, have actually been working on for the past 4 months a little bit. The LINK program in Canada has been doing webinars or like Zoom meetings, basically 2-hour-long sessions to work towards your badges for the LINK program. So that's been really cool. That was the theme that they focused on the past 4 months. You can learn a lot. Sometimes I thought, I'm not learning anything new. This is all like pretty much like up to speed. But then once I got into it, I was like, no, I'm learning from other people too. So the LINK program is really good that way. I think you get a lot of perspectives from a lot of different people that you wouldn't normally get, especially with these online sessions. You're getting to meet people from across the country, which is cool. So it's a great program. And I wish more countries, more Girl Guide and Scout organizations had this available to women of this age, because it's really helpful. So that's sort of the link side of it. And then personally myself, like I said, I'm a lifelong learner, or consider myself one. I'm just very curious by nature. I wasn't necessarily always like that. I think when I was in school, I tolerated school. I did all right. Went on to post-secondary because that's what I needed to do in order to get to where I wanted to be, career-wise, job-wise. So went to university. I enjoyed most of university. I was lucky that way, I guess. The program that I took was very unique. I think that's what helped. It wasn't like the mundane, like boring old university experience, because I was never a good test taker. My program, I should say, was very much project-based, so I excelled that way. I excel in the projects as opposed to the test taking. So that was really nice. Not everyone excels at the test taking. I think that's what universities tend to focus on. But that's sort of the beauty of college too. And a lot of people like to look down upon colleges, or they used to, at least here in Canada. Colleges and universities are different. Universities are like what people would say colleges in the States, but then colleges here are basically a practical way of learning, whereas universities much more academic and looking for results, as opposed to like the practical hands-on of college. So you can actually now come out with degrees from college. They just teach you in a different way because it's better for those who learn through hands-on and practical. So that's sort of the difference, in case people were wondering. I chose university because it offered what I wanted. I was looking for something very niche, and I was lucky to find it. A lot of universities offer just business or just arts, and I was looking for a merging of both. And I was lucky to find what I did. But I think that's maybe, of course, also over the years has become wider and wider in terms of availability. But that's why I went to university. I did enjoy it, though. When I got to take courses that I enjoyed, I really did enjoy it. So I think that's where I first learned, like, oh, okay, I actually do enjoy this. It's not that school sucks. It's just like some courses are not for me. And then this past summer, I caught eye of the Indigenous Canada online course through the University of Alberta and their Faculty of Native Studies. And of course, I heard of it, as many people did, through Dan Levy's post on Twitter and Instagram, I believe. And he was basically encouraging everyone to take part of this course because of what was happening in the world with the Black Lives. And then it, evolved into also include Indigenous people and people of color. And he thought that this opportunity would be good for Canadians, and I mean, even Northern Americans, anyone basically who lives in a country where there's Indigenous people, which hint is everyone. But it applies maybe a little bit more to North American Indigenous peoples. So I decided to take it because I wasn't losing anything. It was free. It took maybe 2 hours a week tops. And we got to do it along with him. So that was pretty cool. And it's a very comprehensive course overall. If you're interested, it just kind of covers a little bit of everything from like the very beginning of Indigenous people to settler arrival, colonialism, the destruction basically of native life here in North America, and then also cover things like arts and native people in modern society. So they are struggling but still living and trying to make themselves a part of the landscape here. And basically, after I finished it, I was really sad that I was done and wanted to learn more. And so I'm sort of waiting to see if they'll come out with more courses available in a MOOC format. They have done 2 new courses, but they're only available for students through the faculty. So you kind of have to wait, I guess. But it takes a lot of effort and energy to make it a MOOC. A lot of video that you have to go through, not only creating, but editing and yada yada. So it was a cool experience that I had recently that I really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to more.
I like Marissa. I also have always loved learning, and
like at some points in high school, kind of was getting tired of it, finding it tedious. I discovered very early in high school how much work I needed to do to get like a solid B average, and kind of sailed through high school doing that. And then found a university course that I was really interested in and really enjoyed doing that, but then got into the real world and couldn't find a job with it.
Yeah.
Environmental and sustainability policy sounds like there'd be a lot of jobs. There really isn't. So I ended up, taking a couple years off, working, a part-time job, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then ended up going back and doing a 3-year college program in engineering, which surprised not only myself, but a lot of people around me. Not something that I definitely did not excel in the sciences in high school, but did always enjoy math and wanted to get into environmental policy or community design with a focus on the environment. So went back to school for civil engineering technology program, which means I do a lot of field work for civil engineers, which is pretty cool. So it gets me, keeps me fulfilled in that, environmental community-based aspect of it. But also is really hands-on and means I'm not sitting behind a desk all day, every day, which I'm not sure I could do. And then I finished that and I was like, okay, I'm done with school. Like I have a BA, I have a degree, I don't really need anything else. And then like a year after I graduated, I was like, no, I kind of, want to learn more. And I know me, as cool as the course Marissa took, it's not a format that I do well in. That self-directed learning is not how I learn. I'll get not bored, but other things will get in the way and I have a hard time making the time to do it. So I signed up for a continuing education project management certification through Conestoga. And because I'm doing it for professional development as well as personal development, my company will offset some of the costs for it, which is nice. Taking what I'm doing and what I want to do and getting that kind of offset and recognized by my employer, saying that I want to do better and become a, more valuable employee. But yeah, like always love going back and learning. I just never done well in the self-directed part. I need deadlines and marks and like someone else holding me accountable to it for me to really get into it and absorb that information.
Yeah. I found I can be pretty bad when it comes to procrastination. I was surprised by the course that I took because it actually set up deadlines for me. I think when you just started, it sets up your 2-week deadline. It says this is a due date coming up. So that sort of kept me motivated. The other thing that was really nice was because I was taking it alongside Dan Levy, he had set up discussions with the professors every Sunday. And they were really cool discussions. And if you did not read the week's content previous, you would not really get much out of the discussion. So that kept me motivated. Yeah. So that was lucky that it was happening at the same time. But I totally understand that not having the motivation or not being able to keep on top of it if you don't have like a formal like set of like things that you have to follow, whether that be like weekly quizzes or due dates or like you got a midterm coming up, like really depends on your learning style. And but it's all good stuff. There was something that you said that I was going to also mention and now I can't remember what it was. Oh, it's like on the tip of my tongue. Oh, I know what it is.
Worst.
So you mentioned that your work help offset some of the costs. That is something that is really beneficial depending on where you work. But I always like to ask it in interviews because not only like, am I actually really interested? Like, will you send me to conferences where I can learn more, or will you allow me to take a course and pay for some of it or all of it? But it also shows the employer too that you're interested in learning, which is really big. Like, you cannot be set in your ways and not be open to learning, because it doesn't matter where you are, whatever job or industry you're in, things are constantly changing because technology is constantly changing, and technology affects everyone job wise. Like, you can't get away from it. So I like to ask that question. So if that's something that you're interested in too, that might determine where you look for jobs, who your employer is. It's not always the be all and end all of a job, but can certainly help, especially if you plan on staying there for a long time, or like you like the job and the salary or the money you're making, but you're not getting that opportunity to learn. You might leave sooner rather than later because you feel like you're not growing. So just a tip if you're of the age, if you're young or old, whether you've just started your career or you're midway through or near the end, something to look into.
Yeah, my mom, when I was a kid, probably had a huge impact on the way I looked at learning. Went back to school when I was in elementary school, and did some other program that I probably should know what it was, and I totally don't. But I remember at some point, like, being really annoyed with her. So one year, the course she was taking night courses because she was working full time, obviously. And the course she was taking fell on the same night as Halloween. And being a good student, my mom went to class instead of taking me trick-or-treating. And I was super upset. But like, yeah, I was upset when I was, 7 or 8, however old I was, that my mom couldn't take me trick-or-treating. But like, seeing that, like, school's important, like, you have to keep learning, was a huge inspiration to me later on. Although I'm still bitter about her not taking me trick-or-treating. I don't think that's ever going away. But then as she was finishing her program, she went down to working from 5 days a week in the office to 4 days a week, and then a half day at home on Fridays, so she could focus on finishing her courses. So finding a company that, wants to see you succeed in your career goals, and being flexible and finding ways to make that happen and work, is important, and will happen if you care and are passionate, and that shows. Doesn't really matter how old you are or where you are in your career. A good company will work with you to help you succeed and find ways to make both things happen, which is a great transition to talking about our She Was a Girl Guide this week, Jill Biden.
Nancy Reagan, Helen Hayes, Jan Davis, John Sauvé, Carrie Fisher, William's sister, Shirley Temple Black, Tammy Duckworth, Kathy Frost, Candace Bergen, Lucille Ball, Debbie Reynolds, Princess Margaret, Hillary Clinton. Did you know she was a girl guide? Busting down the door 100 years or more. Did you know she was a girl guide? Here to let you know she was a guide, Did you know she was a girl guide? Here to let you know she was a guide.
So Dr. Jill Biden is super impressive. And, she's not super old. She's only in her, she's born in 51, so 70s, but still very active. And why I said that it's a great transition is that she intends to keep teaching, as she enters her new position as First Lady coming up in a couple weeks. But we need to back up and kind of go through her life and her career to understand why that's such a big deal. So Dr. Jill Biden was born on June 3rd, 1951 in New Jersey, but she grew up in Pennsylvania as the oldest of 5 girls. And although her family was agnostic, her grandma was Presbyterian, and Jill would regularly attend church and church services and events with her grandma, and joined the Presbyterian Church when she was 16. Sorry. And has always, or has relatively been involved in various churches since then. Her dad was benefited from the GI Bill in the United States, was able to go back to school after he served in the military, and eventually worked his way up to becoming a bank manager in New Jersey. And that drive pushed Jill to want to have a career from a very young age, and she began working when she was only 15 and has worked almost constantly since then. And it was noted that Jill was always a good student, especially enjoying English, but she was also known to be a rebellious teen and a prankster, which I always liked thinking of older women and women who are, you know, important in politics and like global events to be, I like thinking of them as, you know, having that rebellious spark in them and thinking that that can, you know, continue as they get older, which it does a little bit with Jill, as we'll continue talking about. She graduated from high school in 1969. And then out of high school, she went to a junior college, which is similar to community colleges here in Canada. It's a stepping stone between high school and college, or more hands-on programs, not as academic as university here. And she chose to study fashion merchandising, but wasn't enjoying it, and she dropped out after only 1 semester. During that time, she married Bill Stevenson. They were married about 4 years and then separated in 1994 and divorcing in 1975. So it was a short marriage and just didn't work out. They ended up growing apart during that time. But that marriage brought her to Delaware, where she enrolled in the University of Delaware and declared herself an English major. She did take a year off of school while she was at the university, and she did some modeling with a local agency, but then returned to school and graduated with her English BA in 1975. While Bill and Jill were working on their divorce, or getting divorced, I guess, Jill was set up on a blind date with Joe Biden by Frank Biden, Joe's little brother, who Jill had known through school. And even though Joe Biden was 9 years older than her at the time, she was impressed with him right away, calling up her mom saying, "I finally met a gentleman." So they were quite enamored with each other. Once she graduated from the University of Delaware, she started subbing in the Willington school system, and then was hired as a full-time English teacher at a high school in the city. During this time of subbing and working as a high school English teacher, she was working part-time for Joe in his Senate office, doing outreach to the southern parts of the state on evenings and weekends. Jill married Joe in 1977 in New York, after Jill had finally accepted his proposal, Jill was super hesitant to take that step, as she was worried about being in the public spotlight with him being a senator at the time. Her wanting to focus on her career, which was always super important to her, and helping raise Joe's two sons after his first wife and daughter had died about 5 years before in a pretty nasty car accident. And a cute note I saw is that while she has never formally adopted the Biden boys, Bo and Hunter, she raised them as her own, and the boys call her mom.
Oh, yeah. That is really sweet.
Mm-hmm. So, proving that you don't need to be, so written on paper to be someone's parent. That she was able to take that step with them and kept it out of the court system.
I find it a little funny that she was worried about the public spotlight, and now, 40, 50 years later, it's like, well, you thought that was bad when he was a senator.
Yeah, she definitely, throughout all of his campaigns, she's had an interesting relationship with campaigning and public speaking, and has only recently started changing her point of view with that, or at least changing her reactions about it. So Jill, being the working woman she is, kept working after they got married, and was also working on her master's degree, one course per semester, completing a master's of education in 1981, while also pregnant with her daughter, Ashley. She then took a step back from her career for a few years to help raise the three kids. So the two Biden boys and then her daughter. When she returned to work, she taught English and history to emotionally disabled students at a psychiatric hospital, and really enjoyed it. And again, while working, she also was working on a second master's degree in the evenings, earning the second master's in 1987. So what I found out during this is that this 2020 wasn't Joe's first presidential campaign. It was, in fact, his third. So he ran in 1988, and even then, Jill Biden said that she would keep teaching if he won, which is something she is still saying today. So, good on her keeping to her guns 40 years later, 30, 40 years later. In 1993, she started teaching at the Delaware Technical and Community College, where she taught English composition and remedial writing with an emphasis on instilling confidence in her students. That's where she really found her groove when it came to teaching. She really liked teaching that age and helping change the lives of young adults or adults trying for a second career. And being the lifelong student that she is, she also went back to school for her doctoral degree, earning her Doctor of Education in Educational Leadership in 2007 at the age of 55. So, again, never stopping. Her dissertation is titled Student Retention at the Community College, Meeting Students' Needs, and is published under the name Jill Jacobs Biden, Jacobs being her maiden name. In 2008, it was Joe's second run at the Oval Office, where he was ultimately unsuccessful, becoming the vice president eventually. But before being chosen to be Obama's running mate, Joe Biden was also running for the presidential nomination. Jill would teach Monday to Friday and then join Joe wherever he was on the campaign trail for the weekends, marking on the campaign bus. She said that she would take a role in addressing education as her chief focus as First Lady and wanted to be included in cabinet meetings, although she still claimed to be fairly apolitical, or at least as apolitical as she could be, being married to a senator for as long as she had been. Once Joe was eventually selected to be the vice presidential nomination, she wore a Blue Star Mothers Club pin in recognition of Beau Biden's deployment, going back to her, like, seeing herself as the boys' second mother and playing an important role in their lives. And through the Obama-Biden campaign, she continued to teach 4 days a week and grading papers on the campaign bus over long weekends. It's actually said that Michelle always, if Jill was working with or on the road with the Obamas, Michelle always said that she had papers that she was marking on the bus whenever she had a minute. So taking both her roles very seriously. Once Joe Biden was elected as vice president, Jill wanted to keep teaching and became an adjunct professor at the Northern Virginia Community College, or NOVA, teaching 2 courses that year. And it's believed that Jill Biden is the first second lady to hold a paying job while her husband served as vice president. And she insisted on being called Dr. Jill Biden while in that role as the second lady. In May 2009, Barack Obama placed Dr. Jill Biden in charge of an initiative to raise awareness about the value of community colleges in the United States. And in 2011, she joined forces with Michelle Obama to launch a national initiative, joining forces to showcase the needs of U.S. military families. Through all this, Jill Biden never stopped working at NOVA and was promoted to associate professor, continuing to teach 2 days a week, and worked to make her position as normal as possible. And some of the things she did was she shared a cubicle and held regular office hours for her students, and got her Secret Service agents to dress as normally as possible. Because she was, an influential woman. She had Secret Service agents, and, they needed to be around all the time. And she did her job fairly well, or she met her goal. Students rarely knew who she was, going by Dr. B around campus. And if they asked if she was married to Joe, she would often say that she was just a relative. Try and keep it low-key. She would often share the perks of working at the White House with her colleagues, so going on tours or getting them tickets to events, but never pulled rank. And if she had to join the Obamas or Joe Biden on an event in a professional situation as the second lady, she would always request time off from the college. She did little campaigning for both elections, both Obama's first and second terms, reflecting her continued distaste for politics and public speaking. But she is also disappointed that Joe didn't run for president in 2016, believing that he's highly qualified for the position and would have been the best president. So not her cup of tea, but knows what's best for her husband. In the last 4 years, from when the Obama presidency ended to when the Biden election campaign started, the Bidens launched the Biden Foundation in 2017, which helps them fundraise and raise awareness for various foundations and causes that they are passionate about. She was named the chair of Save the Children in February 2017. She has kept teaching at Nova full-time, and has written a memoir called Where the Light Enters, Building a Family and Discovering Myself, which was published in 2009. She has also given a few commencement addresses over the years, but again, it's been very clear that she doesn't excel at public speaking and is not something she absolutely loves doing. Bringing us up to the last 8 months or so, she was much more active in in Joe's third and final run at the Oval Office, being much more active, and even took a leave of absence from Nova in the spring 2020 semester so she could be on the campaign trail full time. She has stated many times that she intends to resume teaching, even as First Lady, and wants to retain her title as doctor in the White House. She has spoken out very publicly and not forcefully, but in an authoritative manner, I guess, about how COVID has impacted education, and has put an emphasis that she understands the frustrations that children, parents, and teachers are having with everything that's going on. She claims that schools and parents alike want a clear science-based strategy, not mixed messages and ultimatums that we've been seeing way too much of the last couple of months. And she's also very strongly criticized Betsy DeVos, the current Secretary of Education, for what she saw as political motivation in advocating a reopening of schools no matter what. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Jill Biden said that Joe's going to pick a Secretary of Education who is a public educator and has experience in the classroom, which he has done. Yeah. Very strong on education. Wants to make sure that, students are getting what they need. She was heavily involved in the vice presidential selection for, which ended up being Kamala Harris. And there has been last point I'm going to make is that there's been huge backlash from an op-ed that was published in the Wall Street Journal, where writer Joseph Epstein encouraged Dr. Jill Biden to drop the doctor as her preferred form of address because she was not a medical doctor, saying that it would confuse people that she wasn't really a doctor. Which led to a ton of backlash. The internet was thoroughly unimpressed, including Dr. Biden herself. She was surprised. It was really the tone of it. He called me kiddo. One of the things I'm most proud of is my doctor. I mean, I worked so hard for it. And it's her quote, kind of being like, yeah, no, not happening. I worked for it. I earned it. A PhD is a doctor. Like, if you have your PhD, you're a doctor. It doesn't really matter what form of doctor it is. It's still a title that you deserve to be recognized by.
Yeah, the English language doesn't really do it justice because there's two things there. There's the doctor profession and there's the doctor of, the PhD variety. And
yeah.
It's I think dedication-wise, time-wise, you could argue that they're probably just as long in terms of attaining. And yeah, the jobs are different, but at the same time, it's like why does she have to drop it? I think people understand in this day and age what a doctor is and how to research if she's a real doctor, like a real doctor, you know what I mean? Like a medical doctor.
Yeah.
I think people can figure that out for themselves, and I don't think they're going to start calling up Jill asking her for medical advice. I think that's just someone trying to belittle her, make her feel.
I have a couple cousins who have earned their PhDs. They worked hard for them. It's nothing to shrug at. One of my cousins actually defended her PhD during COVID, and I think one of the hardest things for her was not being able to celebrate with her colleagues at the end. But yeah, she
such is life.
Such is life, and they found ways around it, which is, what everyone's been doing these days. A few other things that Dr. Jill has done over the decades is in 1993, she began the Biden Breast Health Initiative, which provides breast health awareness programs to schools and groups in the state of Delaware. And Book Buddies, which provides books for low-income children. Similar to the Dolly Parton program, but Book Buddies was founded in 2007. That is a very, very brief overview of Dr. Jill Biden, who has done a ton of work and education and outreach, and was, a successful, teacher and professional and mom and adoptive mom.
Pretty interesting lady. Someone to keep your eyes and ears open for in the coming month because of the inauguration and all that. She is bound to get a lot of attention, and for the next 4 years, maybe, hopefully 8 years. You'll probably hear a lot more from her, and even if she doesn't like speaking in front of public, she will definitely have her say, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. I'm really interested to see if she's able to balance working in any capacity and being first lady.
And see if she drives any policy in terms of education down in the States. Because, oh boy, they have a lot of problems down there in terms of education, and teachers work like crazy overtime, don't get paid enough down there. And I just hope she can help them out.
Yeah. She definitely is opinioned and strong enough. And has definitely made it very clear that that's one of her priorities. So I'm sure something will happen. It's just a matter of what, and I'm excited to see what those waves that she makes are.
Yep, me too.
Mm-hmm. And that brings us to our campfire. Going back to, education, we all need to know what the days of the week are. And this is a fun little song to learn your days of the week.
Today is Monday. Today is Monday. Monday string beans. Are you hungry, children? Come and eat it up. Today is Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. Tuesday spaghetti. Monday string beans. Are you hungry, children? Come and eat it up.
Today is Wednesday. Today is Wednesday. Wednesday soup. Tuesday spaghetti. Monday string beans. All you hungry children, come and eat it up.
So this one is called Today is Monday, if you didn't already tell from the song. So this is a good campfire song. It's another one, sort of like we said earlier at the top of the episode, that's both educational and campfire song. And going through all my research, there wasn't really one single known author or composer or lyricist, whatever you want to call it. There wasn't really one name associated to it. nor was there a date really. But I was able to find some people who were maybe most well known to have done recordings of this song. One of them was Eric Carle, big name in illustration for kids' books. So he is the acclaimed and beloved creator of the brilliantly illustrative and innovatively designed picture books. His most well-known, of course, is The Very Hungry Caterpillar. That is Eric Carle. So he made a version of Today is Monday, a picture book. And the way he does it is he has lively animals that parade across the page, and they munch on the favorite dishes and introduce young readers to the names of the days of the week. Very cool book, and there are a couple of versions on YouTube that have the song accompanying it. So if you want to read the book virtually, you can. There's even some that have live page turning of kids doing it, so it's kind of cool. And then there's also a version by Jim Rule, and it's on an album that he did called Jim Rule, Too Much Fun All in One. And it's an album of songs that is really good for teachers and for teaching if you have really young kids and you want to teach them the simple things like days of the weeks. I'm sure they do, the months of the year, all the simple things. Jim Rule, of course, is a Parents' Choice Award-winning recording artist, teacher, and songwriter. He is probably most well-known for writing songs for Barney and Friends. So that's where that Barney reference comes from. So yeah, two probably really well-known artists / educators in a way. And those were the most popular versions I came across. But of course, everyone seems to have their own version of it. Like there's a lot of children's entertainers that have their own version. I think even Sharon, Lois, and Bram have a version of it. But yeah, it's a fun little song. Good way to learn your days of the week. Yeah. I learned the days of the week through another song, but I mean, it's one that'll get stuck in your head, and it's good because it's repetitive. So like you sing a line, and then you add another line and go back to the beginning and sing it all again. So that's really good for kids for learning, but it also makes a great campfire song that way when you have that sort of going back and forth. And it has like ridiculous lines to it too. Not ridiculous, maybe just silly is probably a better way to say it.
Well, those lines or the lyrics you have here aren't the lyrics I sang as a kid.
Oh.
They're similar. And I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what the Monday I sang as a kid was, but we did. So you have Monday string beans, Tuesday spaghetti, Wednesday soup, Thursday roast beef, Friday fish, Saturday chicken, and Sunday ice cream. I can't remember what Monday was. Tuesday was string beans or green beans. Wednesday was soup. Thursday roast beef. Friday fish. Saturday party. And Sunday either sleep or laundry. So Monday might have been laundry, Sunday sleep. And they like all had ridiculous actions and screaming and and the chorus line that you have is all you hungry children come and eat it up. What I sang as a kid is everybody happy? That I've come to say today is whatever the day of the week is.
That's very interesting. I will say I did see a couple of different versions. I just pulled the version that seemed to be most popular every time I listened to the song. But again, like I want to hear the version that you learned, like in person. Yeah. Like I'd love to. We're just going to have a really long list of campfire songs we're going to teach our unit as soon as we're able to do so in person. The girls have told us that they don't want to learn virtually, which I get. It's with
hard.
The leg, it's not fun. So we will wait.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a really long list of songs now, and this will probably be added to them because I will want to hear. But it should be noted there are several different versions with the days of the week stay the same, but like what goes with the days of the week changes, as well as that, like you said, that last line about basically putting it all together.
Yeah.
But I think the tune stays the same. I will say that. I think the tune is pretty consistent across the board.
Yeah, or similar enough. Some of my favorite things were the actions that went along with it. So roast beef is a very aggressive cutting of a roast beef. And you growl roast beef like as low as you can. Which is pretty fun and pretty entertaining when you get a bunch of kids try and say roast beef in their deepest, loudest voice as possible. Fish, you obviously plug your nose because fish is smelly. I'm trying to think. Soup, you pretend to slurp sloop out of a ladle. So like you soup, being as ridiculous as you can. Those were always my favorite. They were always super silly to act out, especially when you get like Sparks and Brownies doing it. Always turn things up to the extreme. Pretty funny. Yep.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I highly recommend checking out that Eric Carle book. If you've read Hungry Caterpillar, it's really coolly illustrated in his like very unique way. Check that out if you want to.
Yeah.
I wonder if it'll say in that book somewhere where the ownership is of that song, but so far I haven't been able to find anything. So be curious to know.
Yeah, I have an interesting relationship with Eric Carle. I had a speech impediment as a kid, and my speech pathologist made me read Brown Bear.
Oh, yes.
Because
it's a good one.
Focused on all the letters or had enough of the letters I needed to work on in it. But it meant that I had to read it all the time. So I'm a little so-so on him, depending on the day. I do still very much enjoy Hungry Caterpillar. Don't really look at anything else he wrote.
I think the Hungry Caterpillar is the one that I loved the most. And they actually, through my browsing, of course, while doing this research, I found that there's a animated little short version of the story where the caterpillar moves. It's actually really good. And it's like, oh, cool. Huh. Just sort of brings back memories from kindergarten.
Yeah. I guess that brings us to the end of another episode. Like always, subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you may listen to podcasts. Wherever you find us, make sure you give us a 5-star rating and a review to let us know that you're listening and enjoying.
And you can also follow us on social media. We're at Guides Own. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can keep up to date on the newest episodes for any of the podcast news and, of course, the behind-the-scenes bits.
And as we part, we wish you all good guiding.
Good guiding.
Day is done, gone the sun, from the lake, from the hills, from the sky. All is well, safely rest, peace is nigh.